what we're looking at here is the same file being rendered by two different programs. On the left is this file being rendered by a text editing program, and it's a plain text file, and on the right is that same plain text file being rendered through a web browser. And well, there is one other difference, and I'll just say is that after I uploaded this text file to the web, I basically renamed it index.html so that it would look nice in my URL, because obviously if I didn't name it index.html, I'd have to put a / and then put in this history of the web.txt in there for it to show up. But it's interesting because now you're saying, well, if I formatted the document over here, how come it didn't get formatted the same way to the right over here? And that's because browsers will in a file, when a browser's rendering the file, it's going to ignore any spaces more than a single space. Meaning, obviously, this is still retaining the spaces between our words, you know, content space was, it's retaining that, but when you look, it's not retaining these carriage returns after here to where we have the World Wide Web as a header and it goes down. Well, in order to get that to happen, we need to actually throw on some HTML tags on some of these elements, and then from there the browser is going to have its own built-in styles and how it's going to render these things, that we could, at least the first step would be to get it to look more like the original document, and then as we move forward we'll actually apply CSS to even change the default styles that the browser uses to render it. So let's do something to the file that's located on our computer. At this point, more than likely, it's going to still be named that txt file local on your computer, and you should keep it like this for reasons I'll show you in a little bit. But let's start just going down the way with some of this stuff, formatting our document. Now, I'm going to show you two tags right now. I'm going to show you first the paragraph HTML tag and the H1, the header 1 HTML tag. Now, all HTML tags need to be, not all of them, but the majority of them need to be opened and closed, and we'll see some exceptions later on down the road. But for sure, H1 and P need to be open and closed. Now, what I mean by open and closed is if we intend on this whole part to be a paragraph, we need to, I guess by open and close, we need to encapsulate this in HTML tags. So first we'll say we'll open the paragraph by putting a less than sign, then P for paragraph, and then greater than sign. And here we go. Now we opened the paragraph tag. Now, where we want the paragraph to end, we need to close it. And we'll go less than / P, and there we go. So now this whole thing is going to be a paragraph, and when we actually save it, upload it, and have it render in our browser, it's going to stand on its own like this. So now let's do the same thing, except instead of putting P in the middle, we'll put H1. And we'll put this / H1 inside there. And why don't I just add the paragraph to the end over here as well. We'll just do a couple of them. And I'm going to save it. So now here's the saved file right here on my desktop. So now let me move all this stuff to the side, and I am going to upload it to the host. Now I already have that index.html, and here's a little file management strategy too. Instead of just completely overwriting it, which I won't by just uploading it now, let's just see. I'm going to upload it now. It's there. Come on. Did I upload it to the right place? Here, let me. Oh, okay. I just got a little bit of a slowdown. If you could see right here, it says listing directory while it's doing it. it must be something with 00 web host, because this is moving pretty slow. But if it's happening to you, you know what you could do? Just check to see that you're online. Okay, I'm online, so it's not something on my end. Oh, here we go. Okay, so now we have that history of the web. So before I go do something stupid, I'm just going to rename the old file HTML dot, I could even put the extension backup over there, because that's not going to show up now as the main page. And I'll rename the file that I uploaded index.html. I always like to do that when I'm freshly changing a file, because I don't know, because I mess things up all the time. So instead of, I can't change me messing things up, but I could at least put some kind of safety nets to keep me from making it too bad. So once I refresh this, oh, so check out what happened. Now the rest of my document is still a big, pile over there, but by adding, look right here, the P and the H1s to the code, like so, the browser ends up rendering them a little bit differently. Now I didn't have to add any extra space. Basically what the browser's doing here is that by default it's saying that this history of the World Wide Web is going to be bold and bigger than the paragraph, which doesn't really look much different than the text here, but at the very least, it's, once I open and closed it, it kind of has a carriage return above and below it to give it some spacing. So it's more defined now as a paragraph. So what I want to do is kind of move down the way and start really formatting the rest of my document like that in order for it to look similar to this.